Okay, so over here we have M52 B28 iron block from an E36 BMW E36. It's already been bored for oversized pistons, and that's about it. And I just cleaned it up, painted it blue, and now I gotta do some more work that I'm gonna be talking about in a couple minutes. But first, let me show you what I got for the motor. So we have the block, iron block. We have 3-liter crankshaft from M54B30. It's the original M52 head that's been modified to accept dual vanos. So I'm gonna show you. It's been welded, and I also put a little bit of JB weld to make sure it's 100% smooth. So it's very small layer of JB weld there. It's actually, you can see almost through it. So yeah, the cylinder head's been decked already. The valve stem seals, I changed the valve stem seals, pretty much prepped the cylinder head. I also lapped the valves, so the valves are lapped. Here's all the hardware. I'm pretty much almost done sorting out through. I had a big bucket of hardware for the whole engine. This is a bunch of extras in here as well, so I'm just gonna clean it all up and have a bunch of extra nuts and bolts, I guess. But anyway, continuing to what we have for the engine, we have M54B30 new pistons. These are original replacement pistons. They're not from BMW, these are eBay, but they are oversized, so they're half mil oversized. I'm not going for crazy horsepower in this engine. This is going into my X5. Obviously I'm gonna put a turbo on it. I'm only expecting about 450 horsepower, maybe 500, okay, maybe 600 on the e53. Build this engine and have it as a brand new engine, with the fact that I'm just getting forged rods on top of it. So now that we know we got some pistons and rods, now we're gonna continue. I got main bearings, rod bearings, all new timing components. By all I mean everything. We have everything on the exhaust side, everything for the intake side. I have oil pump timing, oil pump tensioner from S54 that I'm going to be installing on the dowel pins, as you can see them here. I have new oil squirters for the engine, should be 6 of them, yes, 6. All of these are brand new from FCP. New crankshaft sprocket, new because it has this rubber between that be deteriorating, and basically you get more chain slack. But if you have a good chain tensioner, that's what a chain tensioner is there for, is also to tension that as well. Also, this sprocket has similar rubber on it, which you can see right here. It's actually soft to the, it's not as hard as the ones that on the car right now. This actually I can sort of push through on it, so it definitely feels good comparing to the original one, which I might have here. I don't have it here, but the original one is like rock solid, so all the vibrations cannot actually, you know, be taken out because everything is becoming hard like wood. So it's gonna start vibrating more, create more damage. There's an oil pump sprocket. Just, I'm not doing nothing with the oil pump, but just putting a wire nut to the nut. I'm gonna drill this nut and run the wire through it. So I'm just gonna leave that right here. Next we have these, I believe, the cylinder head studs. These are M50 studs. They're cheap, and these are the main studs. And we have the rod bolts as well. I'm gonna be doing clearancing on this block. I gotta check the clearances for the bearings, even though I know the crankshaft is it's yellow mark crankshaft, so it's pretty much a standard marking. So, and I bought standard bearings, so technically these should be good to go. But obviously, building a whole brand new engine, I might as well just make sure it's good. So got the plastic gauge. What else? We're gonna continue on to the back side. Kinetic cylinder head gasket. Personally, I've had good luck with MLS gaskets. A lot of people saying they rather put a cut ring because they can the MLS does not hold boost as good as a cut ring supposedly. I don't know. I've never tried cut ring. I've always had good luck with MLS. The trick for MLS is you have to have perfect prep on the block and the cylinder head. If you don't have a good RA finish from the machine shop, obviously it's not going to seal. So I told the machine shop I'm going to be using MLS gasket, so they machined the cylinder head for it. Although it's, I believe, probably same stone or blade to cut all of them. They probably cut all of them with the same blade. I have as well over here Vanos rebuild kit with all new seals. The Vanos unit itself, I don't have it here. I have it elsewhere. I was cleaning it. So the Vanos unit I'm gonna show you later. These are the piston rings. They're all laid out over here. The top, bottom, and the oil control rings. So I did get piston rings in the mail. With these pistons. But the piston rings that came with these pistons, I don't like them. First of all, they have a two-piece oil control oil spring. So oil control oil ring. So that's why I bought the Molly set. I bought the Molly set to literally just get the three-piece oil ring, and that's all I'm gonna use it for. These are the original rings to these pistons. That's what I'm gonna go with, and the oil rings I'm just gonna use from the Molly kit. And because they're three-piece design, they're much better at scavenging oil. Well, I think the reason being is it's a lot more. It's like more moving parts, so I guess the carbon doesn't get stuck. I can show you a piston ring that they sent me. That's the ones I'm not going to use. So this is the piston oil control ring. This comes stock on the M54 engines, and you can see it's a two-piece design. So we got one like a holder ring, and then we have the scraper spring ring which goes inside. All this you have to cut and measure to the size as well. This has to be gapped as well, so that shit just goes in the garbage. I'm never going to use those piston rings ever. So I went to a three-piece design like so. It looks completely different, but this is a three-piece. It got a bottom, top ring, and a middle ring, which is a spring. So that's that. I also weighed all the pistons with the. I took everything out. Took all of this out, weighed everything. Everything came out to the same weight. So all this assembly is balanced, and I actually numbered everything out, and I laid everything out how it was measured and weighed. Same here for the rods. So that's pretty much it. Well, timing guys, new IVs, timing chains, oil pump chain and the top chain. So every chain is getting changed as well. And now let's talk about more fun parts. Since I'm going to be running a dual Vanos on this cylinder head, I've been reading online. People say that they think that the stock M52 oil pump might not be up to the task, and that's a high possibility that they might be right, because I have the M54 and the M52 pump side by side taken apart, and you can tell right away. Obviously the housing is much bigger. The actual sprocket is also bigger. If I put them side to side, I'll show you that M52 sprocket on top of M54, and you can see it's pretty much bigger, about an eighth in diameter bigger. So that goes there. So as well as this housing is bigger, everything is bigger. But now the problem is, you cannot just take this M54 pump and bolt it up to an iron block. It does not line up perfectly. It lines up, not perfect. So let me show you what's going on here. Take the pump. I took this housing off. This pump is no good. You can see it's all chewed up internally. That housing right there is the housing I'm gonna use to put in the motor after I clean it up. But let's begin with this. So obviously I tossed the pump on. Now the pump is on, right? So we have two front bolts obviously lined up perfect. Now in the back we go here. The M52 pump don't even have most of this area here, so technically we can chop it off later with the grinder, because it does block a passage for the oil drain a little bit, not a lot. but blocks it so we can chop this out as well. Now the worst part of it all is this last bolt. The third bolt does not line up in the block, it's off to the side. So let me see if I can show the light, shine light on there, and maybe you will see it. So yeah, you can see that there's a gap and it does not line up. So obviously something has to be done, whether it will be an oil pump that has to be modified. I was thinking of taking a welder and welding up all up in here, make this flat, and basically drilling another hole and see how that goes. But then I was thinking about that's a lot of work, and in case I want to change the pump, I've gotta have to do to every housing or swap the housing over. So I have a better idea. I don't know if it's a better idea, but this is what I'm going to do with my block. So take the pump housing off. I have a 13 millimeter bolt. This is the thread right here for that bolt that does not line up with the oil pump. So I take this bolt and I thread it through the back side, and once I finish threading it to the back side, it's gonna peek through the top side. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm gonna go get a grinder, cut this bolt maybe a little lower or higher, it shouldn't really matter. Cut this bolt a little bit, try to make it flush, and then I'm gonna drill another hole in the block to line up with the housing for the e53. And once I do that, I'm gonna tap it. And I don't want to weld this because it's cast iron, although there are people saying that you can braze them. Sometimes maybe you can weld them, but honestly I think it's the easier way, just to put another bolt in it, make it flat, drill another hole, tap it, and that's how I can have myself another change the location of this hole for this pump. As long as these two outlets here match, that's the main question now. That's the one thing I didn't check. They do not. I think they're off, but I can't really tell. I gotta make something. I gotta maybe make a template and see if it matches. But yeah, we're gonna come back to that in a few. So basically this is gonna be multiple parts series engine build. Obviously I'm not gonna guys have you here for hours watching me do something. Just for example, figuring out how to make this pump fit, I'm gonna put it on time lapse like most of these big jobs, and if something intricate, complicated, I'm gonna record it and in full to show how I've done. So obviously I can pretty much tell you guys in steps what I'm going to be doing. The first thing I'm gonna be doing is obviously making the oil pump fit the block, because before I'm putting any parts in the block, I gotta cut it. Obviously I'm gonna be drilling here, so the shards is gonna be falling down. I also gotta put the oil pump chain tensioner. I gotta drill the block in 2 spots to put the dowel pins in, press the dowel pins in, and after all of that is done, then I can finally start clean the engine block and start assembling. Assembly is gonna be basically main bearings first, check the clearance, rod bearings, check the clearance. But before I do main and rod bearings, I have to do piston gap. I have to set the gap on these piston rings. You always gotta set the piston ring gap when you buy new pistons. This is gonna be a turbocharged motor. It's no longer going to be an A, so I have to put a bigger gap on the piston rings. And right now, if you put this piston ring inside the board, this one is gonna be closed fully. So obviously we're missing a gap. We gotta make a gap. I have the feeler gauge. I think it's in my pocket. Yeah, got a brand new feeler gauge for this because my other one rusted away. So a brand new feeler gauge right here, and we're gonna go 20. Let's see, maybe 21 thou on top, 22 on the bottom, because we have two different types of steel rings. This is looks like stainless or something, like chromoly. This is very hard metal right here, and this is a softer metal. This is like almost cast, like I don't know, cast iron or something like that. Not an expert in piston rings. I just know that this ring is much harder to cut than this ring. This ring you will file through really quick. This one you're gonna be on for a little while. So remember, when you be doing piston rings, when you're gonna switch from these top piston rings to the bottom ones, the amount of time you're gonna need to stay on the grinding wheel is gonna change, because these ones are grinding much faster than these. That's about it. And I'm just gonna double check clearance obviously on the oil rings, although you don't have to check. Supposedly I'm going to, I don't care, I'm gonna double check everything. So I'm about to set the camera up, and first I gotta figure it out if those holes match on the pumps. If they match on the pumps and they will line up to the block, as long as they line up in the block, I think we'll be good. Because if this shit don't line up in the block, we'll be no good. So obviously looks like there is two orifices here. One, you can tell, goes to the oil filter housing, probably supplies oil. Here goes to the filter, filters it, and it goes back in here, goes elsewhere. So let's see.